I'm not going to talk too much about Wipro because the good thing, as I said earlier as well, is that talking to this audience in this city, one need not introduce Wipro. You know Wipro. We've worked with many of you over the years, system integration, technology consulting, managed services, you name it, we've done it. What I'll be talking about is a specific part of what we are doing new at Wipro, and why is it that Wipro should be your choice of partner going forward as we encounter new challenges in the IT landscape. So I come from the Wipro CTO office, and we are working on several new strategic technology themes. Cloud mobility analytics have been here. They were new a couple of years ago. They are transitioning into the mainstream. Cloud is, you've started using or evaluating clouds on a regular basis. Mobility and BYOD is something that is already being talked about in many organizations, and analytics that go with it is also part of a competitive marketplace. Now, big data is at the center of this slide, and this is because leveraging cloud mobility analytics, big data will lead to the future of a digitized world, which is essentially multiple screens, sensors, wherever you name it, smart systems, autonomous and machine learning systems, which will require very little human intervention, if at all. We are talking about people who manage petabytes of information on a regular basis, generated every day with something like 5 engineers. And this is something that is happening right now, and something that big data can help enable. And we are and nanosystems is again a product of what we can do in big data. So let us step back for a bit and say why big data and where are we headed. So IT is defined by the world, and where the world is headed, so will IT head. The world is flat. We know through several government and non-government initiatives that more and more people will enter the economic mainstream of the country. You have unique ID, you have various measures of providing a decent livelihood to people. There are banks in this room and elsewhere who are taking initiatives to provide a bank account to everybody concerned. Mobility is the new democratizer in the Indian context, and more than 700 million people now carry a mobile phone, and with it, the entrance to the economic mainstream of India. When we see this, and I'm sure that most of the people out here would be seeing in their day-to-day lives, what are we looking at? We're looking like technical challenges like that. We've been asked by one of our customers to provide a solution which does 14 billion biometric matches per second. And this is, we need to provide it by 2015. Currently, the matches that we are currently doing is at 1 billion biometric matches a second. This is the kind of technical challenges which will come up going forward, and which will require a whole new way of thinking about IT and technology solutioning. The future is connected. I already mentioned 700 million mobile customers. There are equal number of hundreds of millions of bank accounts that are coming online. There are equal, each of your businesses will see several million customers, end users on a regular basis. And what does that mean? That means 85 million customer calls a day. Now, if each of these customer calls has a standard response that needs to be given, okay, you can still design for it. But the customer requires personalized experience for each of these 85 million customer calls that we are receiving every day. How do we design such a system? Where do we start? Where do we start taking in the information and analyzing all this information? That is, again, something that we will need to talk about, and I will present a few things that can help you do that. The future is intelligent. We are working with an airline that generates 60 terabytes of data in one transatlantic flight. One flight from the US to Europe generates 60 terabytes of information. There are 25,000 such flights happening every day. And these are generated by the machines on the aircraft, the cockpit systems, the engines, the various other mechanical and electronic devices that are on board the aircraft. The reason being, because each of these aircrafts costs hundreds of millions of dollars, you want to know, you want to predict failures, you want to prevent failures. You want to fix a system and keep the utilization as high as possible. This is not just a problem that an airline faces. This is a problem that anybody who uses any asset, physical or virtual, faces. Cloud and data center is a clear requirement, but this goes for assets beyond cloud and data center. And the future is resource constrained. I'm originally from Bombay, and I get a little nostalgic when I'm asked to speak in this setting. So this is a map of Bombay. Who better knows resource constraints better than people living out here? We are close to 18 million, 19 million people in an area smaller than Manhattan. The amount of density and the space crunch and the investments crunch and that we experience on a day-to-day basis, nobody can teach us on that. And we know it better than everything. Now, even in a business context, you will see this. Budgets are constrained. Our economy is under stress. You got the US job numbers. Yesterday, the unemployment rate in the US has increased again. Everybody of us who's in an export-oriented business or whose customer's pocketbook is dictated by an export-oriented business is under stress. So IT budgets will be under stress. You will have more data coming in. We are not having enough talent to do the kind of work that we need to do. Space I already talked about, and ecology will always be a challenge. When I grew up not very far from here, and we used to go swimming in this mud island beach. I was telling someone today. It's impossible to even comprehend that you can go and wade in these polluted waters. So as Indians, as citizens, as technologists, and as business people, we are faced with constraints. And so that requires a different way of thinking about things. The future of data. I already talked about there's a tsunami of data coming in. Just 50 trillion gigabytes of data will be created in 2020. The figure is about $1.5 trillion for this year and for next year. So what does big data mean? Big data means that the volume of data that you will be encountering is humongous. It comes from various different sources, and you need to process it in real time and get real-time analytics out of it. So the velocity becomes a crucial factor. How quickly can you analyze the data, and how quickly can you give that benefit of that analytics to the business units that are competing in an increasingly competitive environment? What are the variety of data sources that you're getting the data from? Earlier, it was only relation databases. You have Oracle servers or SQL servers, and you'd be fine with that. But the point is that the types of data that you need to analyze is increasing dramatically as well. You have PDF files, document files, M2M data. So the type of data that you need to analyze is increasing as well. There's structured, which can be easily put in a database, RDBMS. There's unstructured, which is free-flowing text, audio, and video. And there is streaming data, which needs to be analyzed on a real-time basis. And there's variability in meaning. What should a call center agent tell a customer who is a prepaid customer and is giving you giving you a value of about 10 rupees in an entire month, and a person who is contributing to your business by, say, about 10,000 rupees every month? Should the messages that go out to these two customers be the same? How should be the reaction to these two customers be? There's variability in giving this, the information out to two different sets of end users, and that will need to be taken care of. This brings us to three different challenges in big data. The management of big data, the whole point of how will you store all this data coming in, how will you ingest it from all the systems that it is coming in from. Big data analytics, how will you analyze the data, and big data visualization. If your top management or even middle management or field force guys needs to see the data that is coming in, how do you visualize that guy and give them the meaning that the terabytes of data that is coming in is providing you, but in a form that is easily digestible by people. So this requires a change in solutioning, and so big data will change technology solutioning. I'll just go into how it will change it. The application layer, everybody is familiar with that. There's no new thing out there. There's a query layer, and there's a distributed file system. I'll just come up what Hadoop means. And then there is a cluster of servers. Again, nothing is new except one thing. There is no storage box out here, right? So I'll come to why there is no storage box. So how do you scale this application? All these servers are commodity servers. They are not proprietary servers. You don't have to. You have a choice of which vendors you buy it from. So you scale it by adding more servers, by adding even more servers, and by adding even more servers. The Hadoop framework, you would have seen this logo. How many people are aware of Hadoop out here? Okay, maybe about 5%. So the Hadoop framework allows you to scale your solution almost infinitely. And this it does because the parallelism, which earlier was only in compute infrastructure, you would have a cluster of servers which would take data from a common database server or a shared file system and process that data. That data is also now parallelized. The data resides on the cluster nodes, and it is replicated, and it is resilient to nodes failing. That's number one. The second thing is you rely on commodity hardware, which is again redundant and can accept failures of a few or more nodes. And the scale out, scaling is done not by adding more layers to the stack, but adding more commodity infrastructure to your technology solutioning. So your top layers don't change. Your application layer, the query layer, your file system layer doesn't change. You just add more nodes to your cluster to scale your infrastructure to handle the more data that is coming in. That's a major change in the tech solution landscape. Okay, so I just mentioned a new way of solutioning. Now, how do you know it's the right way of solutioning? I could be, selling something that Wipro is doing to make money for Wipro. So let me tell you why this is the right way to do things. What we need is web scale, low cost, and modular solution. And when I mean web scale, I mean people who manage 1 billion searches per second, or people who have a subscriber base of 700 million and growing at 30% right now. Is this solution being used by those people? The answer is yes. It is used by the pioneers of big data. Big data was not created by Wipro. It was created by people who encountered this tsunami of data first. It was created by Yahoo. It was enhanced by Google, and it is being used at Facebook. All the key web-based cloud solutions that you go to, and you don't even, everybody of here would have been on LinkedIn or Google something, or have accounts on Facebook. The experience that you're getting from these solutions is backed by big data, which is why we think that Wipro thinks that this is the right way to go if you need to to manage the tsunami of data that is coming your way as well. It's open source and open standards. So it's not tied in, you're not tying up yourself with a particular vendor. You have a choice of vendors to go to. It is ISV supported. So you have the support that you require even though it is open source based. There is no tie-in with any hardware infrastructure at all. You can go with any commodity infrastructure with an x86 or box and minimize your cost out there. And it is modular. Scalability is extremely easy to be achieved in this particular framework. So what does big data enable? It enables a smart and digitized world. Which I talked about sensors. I talked about 60 terabytes of data being generated per flight. I talked about sensors being part of various devices. And a lot of things are getting automated. What does this have to do with equipment maintenance, logistics, health and safety, remote monitoring? There are use cases that we will go through maybe in the workshop sessions that let you monitor your patients and your end users, not just when they are in the hospital, but free up your beds to cater to other patients and let them take a small device and you can monitor them when they are at home. Equipment maintenance, again, increasing the utilization we already talked about in the aircraft case study, but it applies to all people with large and expensive assets. Remote monitoring, asset tracking is again something that many people out here are already doing, but can be, the analytics can be taken to a far higher level with big data. It enables a digital life. Facebook, everybody knows that. Facebook is now available on your mobile, on SMS, on your laptop. It is not only available on www.facebook.com, but if you read an article on economictimes.com and you want to share it with your Facebook friends, you can bring Facebook on the site that you're currently reading. Mashups are possible. You can now take information from one different source of information, say Economic Times, bring your information from a different source, which is your friends from Facebook, and interact and interface with these two systems. Collaborative and crowdsourcing becomes possible. And a contextual and personal immersive experience becomes possible. We are currently working with a retail chain where people can actually view themselves in a particular apparel of clothing virtually without actually going to a store. Increases the propensity of that customer to buy things online, decreases the retail estate that is required. Perfect thing for a company in a city like Bombay. What Wipro is currently doing, we are working with an insurance agency, insurance player. There are new security or regulatory requirements that have come up, which need more frequent regulatory compliance at a much more detailed level. And we are doing that by big data and enhancing the time taken or reducing the time taken to do the analysis in a more detailed way. We are working with a consumer electronics company which wants its various products to talk to each other. We are working with that. We are helping people in the B2C business to take in structured data, unstructured data, and remote data in terms of consumer equipment data to identify best practices, to identify niches, to identify trends, and make their service to the end user better. This allows each of these, especially in a B2C market, each of your customers is different. Why give a common message to them all? You need to tailor each message based on individual users' requirement and the value that they are providing to your business. And we are doing this with the help of social media. We are doing it with the help of historical data and trending. And backed up, all this is backed up with a big data solution. We are increasing the utility of surveillance and making it more effective with a lesser investment in terms of cost and people. And so face detection and yeah, so face detection, we're doing things like number plate recognition, and we are doing that using big data. This is one of the solutions that we are working on with a state police department to help catch criminals and police their and monitor and monitor their police resources better. So coming to the end of the solution, this is a new world, a new way of doing IT. I wish you all the best as you think about your Las Vegas dreams, and please come to us, and because we will make this happen. Thank you.